Greetings, my dear viewer. You're on the channel The Price of Cheating. The channel is for those who appreciate traditional family values and condemn adultery. So be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's get started. What began as a seemingly mundane conversation between Ethan and Sarah soon spiraled into an event Ethan could never have foreseen. The couple, married for just over a year, had always appeared ideal, young, vibrant, and ostensibly devoted to one another. But one evening, Sarah broached a subject that would unravel their marriage in ways Ethan couldn't yet imagine. She casually floated the idea of pursuing intimacy with a coworker, a suggestion that would set the stage for a betrayal so profound it compelled Ethan to devise a calculated form of revenge. Ethan considered himself a man of unwavering principles. His commitment to Sarah was absolute, and he had never allowed himself to stray, not in thought, let alone action. So when Sarah posed an unexpected question that evening, asking if he'd ever consider being with another woman if given the chance, his answer was immediate and resolute. "No," he said. "You're all I'll ever need." To his astonishment, Sarah's reaction was far from appreciative. Her expression soured, her eyes rolling in exasperation as she muttered something he couldn't quite catch. Perplexed, Ethan pressed her, asking what had upset her. That's when she delivered a revelation that shook him to his core. "Seriously? Not even once?" she said, her tone laced with incredulity. "I find that hard to believe, Ethan. Before we got together, you had plenty of experience. I've barely had any." She hesitated briefly before continuing. "There's this guy at work. He's incredibly attractive, and I've been thinking about maybe hooking up with him. Just once, maybe more." Ethan's stomach turned. The woman he thought he knew, the one he had pledged to love and honor, was revealing a side of herself he couldn't recognize. Struggling to process her words, he sat frozen as Sarah's tone grew more assertive. "You have to understand," she continued, a sly smile playing on her lips. "One person can't fulfill all my needs. This is purely physical, nothing emotional." Ethan's disbelief quickly gave way to anger. Unease gnawed at him until, against his better judgment, he did something he never thought he'd do. He looked through her phone. His hands trembled as he scrolled through her messages and photos, uncovering far more than he had feared. Explicit texts and intimate images had already been exchanged with her coworker, evidence of a boundary already crossed. When Ethan confronted her, Sarah didn't deny it. Instead, she dismissed his anguish with startling indifference. "Yes, I've been sending him pictures," she admitted bluntly. "He's different from anyone I was with him. But it's just physical intimacy, Ethan. I still love you. I just need to explore this. Get it out of my system." Ethan's world crumbled. The woman he had married now seemed unrecognizable, callous, selfish, and consumed by her desires. When she suggested an open relationship, as though it were a minor adjustment, he was devastated. "You could have fun too," she added nonchalantly, ignoring his visible pain. But Ethan didn't want fun. He wanted her. As the days passed, Sarah's audacity only grew. She openly planned a weekend getaway with her coworker, rationalizing her actions with twisted logic. "You've always liked our role plays," she teased. "Maybe you'll enjoy this too. I could even record it for you." For Ethan, this was no game. It was a nightmare from which he couldn't wake. Sarah even suggested introducing him to her friends, hoping he'd embrace her version of freedom. She couldn't understand why he refused to pursue other women while she indulged in her coworker. The situation reached its breaking point one Saturday morning. Sarah, preparing for yet another rendezvous, asked Ethan to take provocative photos of her. "Don't be so uptight," she chided when he hesitated. Begrudgingly, he complied, each click of the camera further stoking his fury. When she left without so much as a goodbye, Ethan felt something inside him snap. That night, Sarah didn't return. When she finally came home, she recounted her escapades with shocking candor. "Two guys this time," she said with a smirk. "I know you didn't approve, but what's the harm? It was just fun." Ethan stood paralyzed, his emotions a maelstrom of heartbreak and fury. The woman he loved was gone, replaced by someone driven by reckless lust and blatant disregard for his feelings. In that moment, He realized he couldn't salvage what they had, but he could retaliate. Instead of confronting her outright, Ethan channeled his pain into a meticulous plan. He began by saving every explicit photo and message Sarah had exchanged with her coworker. Then, he reached out to the coworker's girlfriend, sowing seeds of doubt and encouraging her to question her partner's fidelity. Soon, cracks began to form in their relationship. Ethan didn't stop there. He started spreading rumors within Sarah's workplace, crafting whispers about her affair that soon gained traction among her colleagues. Oblivious to the storm brewing around her, Sarah continued her escapades, unaware of the damage to her reputation. The final blow came one evening when Sarah returned home after yet another tryst. Ethan waited calmly, his expression unreadable. "We need to talk," he said. Sarah, dismissive as ever, barely acknowledged him, but his next words froze her in her tracks. "I've spoken to your coworker's girlfriend," he said evenly. The look on her face confirmed it. The game was over. She could feel her world collapsing around her. Ethan had been meticulous in his approach. "I've had conversations with your colleagues," he began, his voice sharp and distant. "Even your boss has expressed concerns about your behavior." Then, delivering the final blow with a chilling calmness, he said, "I've already filed for divorce." The color drained from Sarah's face as Ethan presented the damning evidence he had gathered. She wanted to argue, to defend herself, but the steely determination in his eyes stopped her cold. "You've destroyed everything," he declared, his tone devoid of warmth, "and you're not walking away unscathed." For the first time, Sarah truly understood the consequences of her actions. But it was far too late. Ethan's plan was already in motion, an unstoppable chain reaction that left her powerless to intervene. The man she had once manipulated with ease was now firmly in control. Ethan watched as Sarah crumbled under the weight of her own choices, and though her pain brought him a grim sense of satisfaction, a dark question lingered in his mind. Was this the conclusion of their story, or the beginning of something far more twisted? His revenge had been calculated and ruthless, but would it be enough? Could he walk away satisfied, or would his thirst for vengeance drive him to go even further? As Sarah sobbed, her tearful apologies and pleas for forgiveness met only silence. Ethan turned on his heel and left, leaving her to face the wreckage of her decisions alone. Yet as he stepped out of their apartment, a strange emptiness settled within him. His revenge, though justified in his eyes, offered no real solace. The wound her betrayal had inflicted on him remained raw and unhealed. Still, he resolved to continue. Sarah would not only suffer but lose everything she cherished, one piece at a time. Her career became his next target. Ethan had already sown the seeds of doubt among her colleagues, planting whispers that cast shadows on her professionalism. Rumors of inappropriate relationships began to circulate, and her boss's wary looks hinted at growing suspicion. But quiet whispers weren't enough for Ethan. He wanted her downfall to be absolute and public. Over the following days, Ethan painstakingly compiled every incriminating piece of evidence he could find. Explicit messages, compromising photos, and recordings that documented her indiscretions. Each discovery fueled his anger, a bitter reminder of her betrayal and broken promises. When his collection was complete, he crafted an anonymous email and sent it to her company's HR department. The message was blunt, attaching the evidence and directly implicating her in unethical behavior. To ensure action, he provided contact details for her supervisor, making it impossible for the accusations to be ignored. The repercussions were immediate. Sarah was summoned to an emergency HR meeting, suspended pending an investigation, and left on the verge of losing her position. Her coworker, the man involved in her affair, faced swift consequences as well, fired on the spot after his furious girlfriend confronted him with the evidence Ethan had provided. In a matter of days, Sarah's professional life was in tatters, her reputation obliterated. Gossip spread rapidly, and Ethan observed from a distance, taking satisfaction in her public humiliation. But even that wasn't enough. As the weeks passed, Ethan's actions grew colder and more calculated. Sarah's attempts to contact him shifted from desperate pleas to angry protests. but she still failed to grasp the gravity of what she had done. To her, the affair was a fleeting indulgence, a selfish pursuit of pleasure. To Ethan, it was the complete annihilation of his trust, his love, and the future he had envisioned for them. Determined to strip Sarah of every source of support, Ethan turned his attention to her personal relationships. Her new group of friends, women who shared her progressive views on relationships, were largely unaware of the full extent of her actions. They knew of the affair, but had no idea of the sordid details. Ethan decided they needed to know everything. Using a fake social media profile, he befriended Mia, Sarah's closest ally. With calculated precision, he steered their conversations toward topics of infidelity and open relationships, gradually gaining her trust. When the moment was right, he revealed the full truth. The texts, photos, and recordings that exposed Sarah's betrayal in its entirety. Mia's reaction was one of shock and disgust. The fallout was swift and devastating. Sarah's friendships unraveled, leaving her isolated and disgraced. The women who had once supported her now regarded her with contempt, horrified by her reckless disregard for loyalty and trust. Any attempts Sarah made to defend herself were met with indifference. The damage was irreversible. As the divorce proceedings advanced, Sarah's desperation grew. She begged Ethan for fairness, seeking to salvage whatever dignity and financial stability she could. But Ethan had no intention of relenting. To him, the path forward was clear. Sarah had to lose everything. Here is a rewritten version of the text with the same narrative style and meaning preserved. Ethan was unwavering in his quest to dismantle everything Sarah held dear: her career, her relationships, her self-respect, and now her financial independence. His lawyer, a shrewd and relentless tactician, had meticulously orchestrated the divorce proceedings to leave Sarah with almost nothing. As the primary breadwinner throughout their marriage, Ethan held all the leverage. With Sarah's recent job suspension and the fallout from a scandal he had deliberately set in motion, her position was utterly weakened. In the courtroom, Ethan radiated composure, flawlessly embodying the image of a wronged and heartbroken husband. He presented an arsenal of evidence: text exchanges, incriminating photographs, and video recordings that seemed to document Sarah's prolonged affair with a co-worker. The narrative painted her as reckless, selfish, and the primary cause of their marriage's collapse. Sarah, by contrast, appeared broken and diminished. The commanding aura she once carried had all but vanished, leaving her a shadow of herself. The judge seemed indifferent to her plight, and the ruling was brutal. Ethan was awarded the vast majority of their shared assets, while Sarah was left with a mere fraction of what she once depended on. She had lost everything: her job, her friends, her marriage, and now her sense of independence. Ethan's plan had worked to perfection, reducing Sarah's life to rubble. Watching her world disintegrate had given him the satisfaction he craved. But as he returned to his now barren apartment, devoid of Sarah's presence, he was struck by an unexpected void. The victory he had sought so fervently tasted bitter, leaving behind an ache he hadn't anticipated. Her betrayal had wounded him deeply, and he had ensured she paid the price. Yet now, with his mission accomplished, a troubling question began to haunt him. What remained for him now? The anger that had driven him hadn't disappeared. Instead, it seemed to linger, darker and more oppressive than before. Ethan felt himself morphing into someone he no longer recognized, cold, unrelenting, and consumed by vengeance. As weeks turned into months, Ethan's isolation deepened. In his obsession with punishing Sarah, he had severed most of his personal connections. Now, with his goal achieved, he began to see the toll his actions had taken on his own life. He had been so fixated on making her suffer that he had ignored his own need for healing. One quiet evening, while sitting alone in his silent apartment, his phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. Her words were brief, stripped of anger or pleading. "I'm sorry for everything. I've lost everything because of my mistakes. I just hope one day you can forgive me." Ethan stared at the message, reading it again and again. Forgive her? The concept was alien to him. He had believed that vengeance would bring him closure, a sense of justice. But now, in the emptiness of his life, he realized that peace had eluded him completely. Destroying Sarah hadn't repaired the damage to his soul. It had only deepened the wounds. In his pursuit of revenge, he hadn't just ruined her life. He had also forfeited parts of himself. Without replying, he deleted the message and turned off his phone. Ethan had achieved the revenge he sought, but the triumph was hollow. Alone, he stared into the void left in the wake of his actions. What he had thought would be a moment of satisfaction revealed itself as a cruel illusion. The weight of his choices pressed heavily on him, and he was left with the sobering truth. Revenge, no matter how gratifying it seems in the moment, can never truly heal the pain of betrayal. This concludes the story. If you like it, then put your powerful like and subscribe to the channel.